This is Davia.
And this is Rich. Welcome to our Galapagos video. After years of dreaming about the Galapagos Islands, we're finally on our way.
We flew from JFK Airport in New York City to Guayaquil Airport in Ecuador. From there, another flight to the Galapagos Islands. The Avianca flight was pretty comfortable. You could see that there used to be 3 seats there, but they converted it, so we had a private row just to ourselves. That's me. Touching down on Baltra Island feels like arriving on another planet. Volcanic landscapes, turquoise waters, and some of the most unique wildlife on Earth waiting just beyond the runway. Welcome to the Galapagos. Let the adventures begin. But first, customs. After clearing customs, we meet our guide, Gustavo, who helps us navigate the first leg of our journey. Along with a mix of fellow travelers and locals, we board a bus that will take us to the ferry crossing for Santa Cruz. Driving through Baltra, it really starts to sink in. We're in the Galapagos. The terrain is dry, almost Martian, with cacti and lava rocks stretching as far as the eye can see. And then, another wildlife encounter. An iguana casually strolls into the road, bringing the entire bus to a stop. We wait and wait, but it seems like the guy is perfectly content just basking in the middle of the road. Eventually, the driver takes matters into his own hands, stepping outside to kindly encourage the iguana to move along. The iguana, of course, takes his time and is in no rush. Apparently, we aren't either.
On the way to the ferry, we saw some sea turtles laying some eggs on the beach. The bus stopped for a minute for a quick photo op. When we reach the ferry dock, we see organized chaos. Luggage, crates of food, and supplies all stacked on the top of the boat, making their way to Santa Cruz from mainland Ecuador. This ferry isn't just for tourists, it's a lifeline for the island. The ride itself is short, just a few minutes across the Itabaca Channel, but it's our first real taste of the islands. The bright blue water, the salty air, and pelicans gliding just above the waves.
Once we're on Santa Cruz, our guide leads us to our taxi for the final stretch of today's journey. First, water. This is a nice touch they did.
The ride from the ferry took longer than expected, more than half an hour.
As we drive inland, the landscape shifts from dry and rocky to green and misty. It's a reminder of how diverse these islands really are. In just a few days, we'll be setting sail on the celebrity Flora. But for now, we're ready to settle in and soak up every moment of being here.
When we arrive at the front gate, I thought, great, we'll be here in just a second. But actually, the grounds of the Royal Palm Resort are so large, it was still another 10 or 12 minutes before we arrived at the hotel lodgings themselves. After a long day of travel, we finally arrive at the Royal Palm Resort, tucked away in the lush highlands of Santa Cruz. From the moment we step out of the car, it's almost eerily peaceful. No traffic noise, no crowds, just the sound of birds, the wind through the trees, and bamboo rustling in the distance. Unlike a typical hotel, the Royal Palm feels completely secluded. We don't see any other guests, and for a moment, it feels like we have the entire place to ourselves. Then we see our room, or should I say, our private villa. It's a freestanding structure completely separate from everything else, making it feel more like a retreat than a hotel stay. Inside, the first thing we notice is the space. Massive, open and airy, with high ceilings that make it feel even bigger. The bedroom and fireplace flow into one open space, complete with a fireplace, a cozy couch, a dining table, and a desk, just in case we feel inspired to get some work done, which we won't.
And then, the bathroom. Basically the size of another hotel room. There's a huge shower, a bidet, a walk-in closet, and even a private sauna. And through the back door, our own private yard, surrounded by trees. After a full day of traveling, stepping into this space feels like a deep breath. No distractions, no noise, just the perfect place to slow down and take in where we are. One of the perks of staying in this villa is sweet treats upon arrival. They were delicious. After settling in and freshening up, we decide to take a walk and explore the resort grounds. The paths wind through lush greenery with towering trees, bamboo groves, and the occasional glimpse of wildlife. It feels like we're in the middle of a private nature reserve. Then we head to the resort's restaurant for lunch. Given how secluded everything feels, we weren't really surprised when the restaurant itself was empty. It's easy to forget we're at a hotel, but the restaurant reminds us that we're definitely not roughing it.
In the late afternoon, we head into downtown Santa Cruz for dinner. As we step onto the town's main street, the air is thick with the aroma of sizzling meats, fresh seafood, and fragrant spices. Before we can even take in everything, the real spectacle begins. Restaurant workers stationed outside every eatery, menus in hand, eager smiles on their faces, try to tell us best seafood in town. Or no, here, fresh pasta made by my grandmother, another insists, motioning to a cozy candlelit patio. Davia had a hankering for ceviche, so when we saw La Isla Bonita with their big ceviche sign out front, we had to stop by. They also had a very inviting table full of saran-wrapped seafood that is presumably fresh. That made me hungry. We started out with some plantains and papas fritas. Then I had some rice with some kind of fried seafood in it. I don't know if you remember what it was. And Davia had ceviche.
After dinner, we stepped right into the heart of the street fair. The entire town feels like it's celebrating. Families, tourists, and locals all mingling together. The air is filled with the smell of grilled food, the sound of live music, and the chatter of vendors showcasing their handmade crafts. After the street fair, we popped into a local shop and bought a brownie. With the food, the people, and the energy of the town, this night in Santa Cruz is one to remember. Then, just when we think the night is winding down, we find ourselves in an unexpected match, playing ping pong with the locals. It's the perfect reminder that sometimes the best travel experiences are the ones you don't plan for.
After a rejuvenating night's sleep, we took the advice of some locals we met the night before and set out for Tortuga Bay, one of the most beautiful beaches in the Galapagos. But getting there, that's a journey in itself. The trail is long, narrow, and brutally hot. There's no shade, no breeze, just the unrelenting sun beating down on you as you make your way through the winding path surrounded by dense brush and trees on both sides. With the sun pounding down on us, we were thankful to have packed our hats, sunscreen, and plenty of water. And then we see it. The second the trail opens up, all the heat, sweat, and exhaustion instantly feels worth it. Blindingly white sand, crystal clear water, absolute paradise. Tortuga Bay doesn't make it easy to reach, but the payoff, it's unforgettable.
We did encounter some wildlife on the beach, including a pelican, iguanas, and crabs. The crabs were really vibrantly colored, so beautiful. There's an iguana. The iguanas were so cute. They were much smaller than a lot of the other iguanas. I wanted to take one home in my purse. While the iguana made the seaweed look very tasty, we headed back and stopped at Helado Tato for the best ice cream in the world, which was much needed after that round trip to Tortuga Bay.
Then we headed over to the fish market, where one of the sea lions was getting a little too close to the merchandise.
If you want to see true Galapagos life in action, the Santa Cruz Fish Market is the place to be. It's not just a market, it's a daily spectacle where fishermen, vendors, locals, and wildlife all come together in one chaotic yet perfectly balanced routine. Fresh fish comes straight off the boats and onto the tables where vendors quickly get to work, scaling, slicing, and preparing the catch of the day for eager customers, some of which are sea lions. They're not the only ones watching. The local sea lions have a place figured out, lingering just close enough to beg for scraps, but never enough to get in the way. If the sea lions don't get the leftovers, the pelicans gladly step in. They wait, lined up like customers, hoping for a stray fish head or a forgotten piece of meat.
This sea lion was exhausted after a day full of begging.
It's messy, loud, and a little bit wild, but that's exactly what makes the Santa Cruz Fish Market one of the most unique and unforgettable places in the Galapagos. On our last night in Santa Cruz, we really wanted to rest up before embarking on the next leg of our trip. So we asked for a fire to be built and had a relaxing, cozy night in our gorgeous villa.
The next morning, we checked out of the hotel and made our way back to Baltra Airport. But since we arrived a little early, we had time to relax at the outdoor seating area and enjoy a classic airport meal, papas fritas and dos cervezas. Meet our unexpected breakfast companion, a very determined Finch who had zero shame about wanting some of our fries. We had some time to get some more shots of the lumbering iguanas before heading out on the bus ourselves to meet up with the celebrity Flora.
Soon it was time to go. We boarded a bus that took us to the dock where we hopped on the first tender boat for our ride to the celebrity Flora. Right before we pulled away, we noticed that somebody else wanted to join us as well. A sea lion, making his way down the dock towards us in the tender. This sea lion didn't get the memo that the Flora is passengers only, but we have to admit, it would have made an adorable stowaway.
This was our first time on a Zodiac, which is what you call these tender boats that take you to and from the ship, and we have to get used to it because every single time we're getting on and off, we are going on one of these Zodiacs.
The sun was shining, the ocean breeze was perfect, and then there it was, our first look at the celebrity Flora, our home for the next few days. This adventure is just getting started.
We arrived on board to welcomes, handshakes, drinks, and a pan flute. This is when we first got the idea that this ship was pretty different from other ships we've been on. To give you an idea, the MSC Grandiosa that we went on in 2022 holds about 5,000 passengers and 1,700 crew. The Celebrity Millennium, which we went on in Alaska, holds 2,200 passengers and about 1,000 crew. And this ship, the Celebrity Flora, only has 100 passengers and 80 crew. And when it comes to gross tonnage, which is a measure of the volume of the ships, the MSC Grandiosa is about twice that of the Celebrity Millennium, and the Celebrity Flora is about 6% of that of the Millennium.
Once aboard, we were escorted to our room. We stayed in a royal suite, which has a living room area, endless booze, a beautiful balcony, and a sleeping area, and of course, a giant bathroom. They gave us some backpacks that we could use on each of our excursions each day. And I loved this giant bathtub.
Then it was time for our first meal aboard the Celebrity Flora. Here at the Ocean Grill and Bar, there was a nice small buffet. The selection was a lot smaller than on a typical cruise ship buffet, but the quality was very, very high. I had fried chicken and onion rings.
I think I had nachos.
Then we began exploring the ship. This is the observatory where they even had a special Galapagos version of Uno to play, which we never did, of course, but still pretty cool.
This area of the ship was empty most days, so I really enjoyed going up there and hanging out in the hot tub, doing some Graham stuff, and just relaxing.
These beds they have, you can even rent out for the night and spend the night sleeping in the open air along the Galapagos Islands. The seaside restaurant is where you'll spend most of your meals. For dinner, it is a sit-down affair, but for breakfast and lunch, it's a buffet. The Discovery Lounge is where you'll go to get your drinks at the bar, and also where you'll meet every morning to discuss the upcoming day's adventure.
and every evening to discuss the following day's adventures.
Downstairs, there was a little seating area in front of a TV. They had the guest services area, which was just two folks in front of a computer, and the small gift shop. They even had a lab where one of the onboard naturalists could take a microscope to the different sands and dirts that are on the different islands to show you what makes up the different islands and how they're different from one another.
The spa is a must go to if you ever are on this ship. Every day you are busy all day with countless excursions. It feels like it's really just 2 or 3, but you will be exhausted and a rejuvenating massage will allow you to keep going.
Finally, at the end of a long day, we made it on board the Celebrity Flora and were able to relax before the adventure really began the next morning. Next morning, we woke up and went to the buffet for breakfast before heading out on our first adventure on board one of the uninhabited islands. Each morning, they let you know what to expect in the day's journeys, and then you line up and wait for one of the zodiacs to become clear and take you to shore. Each time you head out, you'll be assigned one of the onboard naturalists who will be accompanying you on the island and telling you all about all of the awesome things you're going to see.
Make sure you have your hat and you cover up because that sun will get you.
This is what they call a wet landing, where the ship comes right onto the beach, opens up, and you walk right out into the sand. One of the first things we saw on our first landing were these whale bones. We also saw a number of mockingbirds jumping around them and begging us for food and water.
One of the highlights of Gardner Bay is the huge colony of Galapagos sea lions that call this beach home. They're curious, playful, and completely unbothered by human presence, often lounging in the sand, playing in the waves, and even approaching visitors to investigate.
After the morning excursion, you'll be brought back to the ship, where there'll be some light snacks served right when you get off. If you're lucky, the bartender will even remember you and your favorite drink and have it ready for you when you come back. Then, after a sweaty morning, it's time for a shower and then a stop by the seaside restaurant for lunch. The buffet food was some of the highest quality buffet food I've ever had. One day they had chicken parm, Another day they had a Peruvian-themed selection.
Everything was delicious. The sushi was amazing, the chicken was always super fresh. You really couldn't go wrong with anything that you chose at the buffet.
They always had a lot of dessert options. And on Thanksgiving, they even had turkey and cranberry sauce and stuffing available as well. Davia's favorite meal was the whole roasted pig. She couldn't stop going back. Oink, oink, Davia.
Pigs are actually an invasive species on the Galapagos, so you should be eating them.
This was our favorite spot to sit, being able to watch the islands go by and dine on our lunch after a busy morning. If you're lucky, you'll have some time to catch a few Z's before you're off again on the Zodiac and out on the next island. And there were a number of different adventures you can go on. Sometimes you're stepping off an island, sometimes you're just doing a drive-by of an island that you can't get off on. Sometimes you're doing a dry landing like you see here, where you get off and are on immediately a very different type of terrain.
This particular landing was very difficult. So difficult, actually, that they had to put a towel out because people were falling down. One of the older ladies on the trip, she actually fell and had to be escorted back to the ship. But
unfortunately, she didn't make it.
It was actually really hard to walk around. I had to take my socks off just to be able to have enough grip in my shoes to be able to navigate this very, very rocky island.
Yeah, it was very uneven, very brittle rock, very sharp rock too, so definitely kind of dangerous.
Yeah. Then there'd be, amongst the lava rock, there'd be these patches of what you're seeing here. These lush green ponds with vegetation and wildlife and even a shark.
Yeah, that's a Galapagos shark, and we were kind of worried because we had just seen a penguin swimming around there, but luckily we did see the penguin swim away and escape.
The Galapagos doesn't actually have a functioning post office as you would normally see here in the United States. The Galapagos post office is what you are looking at. People will drop off letters that they want to send to loved ones back home, but there is no postman. This post office relies on other travelers who will look through the addresses on the envelopes or postcards that you write on them, and if they live near there, it's up to them if they want to take it back and hand deliver it to the addressee.
We delivered a couple postcards, but we have not had our postcards delivered yet. So after getting on board, we are once again welcomed with a snack and a fresh drink.
Having a snack, then
time for another shower because yes, you just spent the last 3 hours sweating your ass off again. But this time, you're done for the day. So it's time to head out to the restaurant and take a look at the menu and decide what to eat. And the food here, again, was so good. After dinner, we headed back to our balcony to watch the sun go down before heading up to the bar and enjoying the silent disco before saying goodnight to a long, adventurous day. So that's the average day you can expect on the Celebrity Flora and a lot of these Galapagos cruises. You spend your mornings, afternoons, and early evenings looking at the different wildlife, and it is an exhausting trip. You hardly have a moment to calm down and catch your breath. You see a lot of cool stuff, but you're tired at the end of this trip. During the trip, you'll have some amazing opportunities to get footage you can't get anywhere else. Sea lions, marine iguanas, blue-footed boobies, frigates. They're all there, and they're all amazing to look at.
Baby boobies! Do you know why the flamingo is pink?
Why?
It's because of the shrimp that they eat. It turns them pink. When they're born, they're white. These iguanas smell terrible. The iguanas are opportunistic eaters, so even though they're pretty much vegetarians, if they have an opportunity to eat one of the baby birds, they're gonna take it, which is why this bird is chasing this iguana away, protecting their little baby. Get out of here, iguana.
We saw a lot of baby sea lions in our trip.
Exactly.
One of the most exciting things we saw while we were there was a brand new baby sea lion with its mother trying to learn to swim. That baby was not having it.
We also saw a giant Galapagos tortoise emerge from the brush and walk by right in front of us as fast as it could go.
This tortoise was rather rude. It didn't even say hello.
We even saw a Galapagos hawk, which had bloody claws from a fresh kill.
The white stuff on the rock is... what do you think it is? Yep. It's poop.
My favorite part of the trip was the snorkeling. Being under the water here was like being in an alien universe. The moment you dip below the surface in the Galapagos, you enter an entirely different world. One that's just as wild and untouched as the islands above. Everywhere you look, life is thriving. Schools of fish move like shimmering clouds, twisting and turning as if they're all thinking as one. My favorite part of snorkeling was seeing all the sea lions. They would swim right up to you and turn their head at you inquisitively. And then there are moments like this. drifting alongside a sea turtle completely at peace in its element. It moves effortlessly, unbothered by us as if it's been here for 100 years. Because, yeah, it probably has. I could have spent days snorkeling. I was kind of disappointed that we only got to go out for a couple hours a few times.
The waters around the Galapagos Islands have an exceptionally high biological load, meaning they are rich in nutrients and marine life, supporting one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet.
It also meant that when you got out of that water and your clothes finally dried, they stank.
One of the rules when you would get back onto the ship were that you had to immediately go over to an outdoor shower on the ship and rinse off.
Unlike most wildlife encounters where you're just an observer, here, the sea lions interact with you. They're curious, bold, and sometimes even mischievous, zipping past at the last second almost like they're showing off. It's hard not to smile, even with a snorkel in your mouth, when a sea lion locks eyes with you and invites you to play. In this moment, we're not just visitors, we're part of their world. Just as quickly as they appeared, they're gone, off to find their next playmate. When I was snorkeling, sometimes I'd just poke my head up and see what was around. You never know what might come swimming right by you. On the last day of the cruise, we went back to the island of Santa Cruz.
Welcome to the Charles Darwin Research Station, home to one of the most important conservation programs in the Galapagos, the Giant Tortoise Breeding Center. These little guys might not look like much now, but they're part of a massive effort to restore tortoise populations across the islands.
These two tortoises got into a neck measuring contest, which, no joke, is how one tortoise may assert dominance over another. They literally measure necks.
Some of these tortoises are over 100 years old and can weigh more than 500 pounds.
Afterward, we were treated to an authentic Ecuadorian dance and lunch. I loved it.
Welcome to the bridge of the celebrity Flora, the command center of our expedition through the Galapagos.
Where Davia even got to pilot the ship.
Our time in the Galapagos has come to an end, but the memories we've made here will stay with us forever. From swimming in the waters with some of the most curious and playful marine life, to wandering untouched landscapes where nature exists just as it has for millions of years, we've stood beside ancient giants, watched wildlife thrive without fear, and experienced a place unlike anywhere else on Earth.
Thanks for watching!